Welcome to You Are Your Name. My name is Dakin Ariel, your host. And this season, we're discussing the Cyclic Law and particularly the cycle charts. I have a special guest today, Laura Brown. She's an instructor of cycle management training, which is the course we teach cycles in. Thank you for being with us, Laura.
It's great to be here, Dakin, discussing cycles.
Now, the question for you today is how can we use cycles in raising children?
The cycles are such a wonderful tool to help you and your children to understand and to merge with the forces of nature, to work with them, not against them. And we have to remember that with children, a year seems like an eternity. So we might want to start introducing, for our younger children, even a day or the month to help them with that particular cycle. So in the one cycle, whether it's a year, month, or day, you get them started in some constructive effort that will be a future asset. Perhaps a savings plan, a new hobby, or art classes, or some form of education, music lessons, even computer skills. These days, high schools encourage students to choose a certain direction. Well, imagine if a youngster chose in their 4 year or their 9 year, and then they'd have to start over again, or there'd be tests and challenges. So, this is a wonderful time to make that decision and then follow up with the appropriate courses. Also, we want to teach our children, our youngsters, that thoughts are things. And so, in a one cycle, we want to seed constructive thoughts and actions, whether it's that 1 month or one day, so that youngster says, you know, I'm going to stop teasing my brother. And that's just a simple seed that can create wonderful rewards down the road. In the second cycle, the youngster needs firm guidance because they tend to procrastinate. So you ask, did you do your homework? They don't want you to be cross with them. So it's upstairs on my desk. And so they need nurturing and lots of love and understanding. They're more sensitive in this cycle and easily hurt by a sharp word. Also, they could be more easily influenced by association, just more vulnerable. So it's really important to have greater awareness. But it's a great time to learn tact and diplomacy, to encourage the youngster to develop kindness, maybe to their sibling or to their friend. Gee, that's a nice job. In this 3 cycle, we want to direct that emotional energy that is there in this cycle into constructive channels of self expression, perhaps art or music lessons or drama. You have to be aware they don't like routine. They want more spontaneity. They love a surprise. So if you say, oh, let's go on a picnic or let's have a party or kayaking, they're so excited. And rewards work so well to provide the incentive. Honey, if you practice your piano lessons, then we'll go to that favorite restaurant or we'll buy that game you've been wanting. So they need a little bit of motivation. Often they're too busy playing or doing something, some activity to really sit down and eat. So they may tend to go for the quick energy foods, the chocolate bars, the candy. So they could have skin rashes and other problems with the skin.
So that covers the seeding cycles, the 1, 2, and 3. And so we're going to look at the 4, 5, and 6, which are the testing and proving cycles. But you did say one thing about how the youngster needs to think in terms of the cycles. Do you actually suggest then reading out the cycle chart day to them so they know what to anticipate?
I think that would be a wonderful idea. You're seeding that for the rest of their lives. And it may not mean much to them at the time, but they'll think about it. And they'll grow to understand this great principle that is right there at their fingertips.
So how about the 4, 5, and 6? What sort of activities should we guide the child into to make the most of that particular cycle?
Well, we have to be very aware of our children's activities and association. Help them to understand that a test is just nature making sure there's a strong root system for rapid growth in the five. So help them to realize, don't rail against the activity, have patience. Maybe get them involved in projects that will prepare for that rapid growth. Something as simple as cleaning the closets or the drawers or the files, or even establishing a study program, a more systematic method of doing their homework. They won't mind their routine as much this year as they did in the 3 or the 5 coming up. We also have to protect their personal safety. Definitely no skiing in March, which is a 9-4 month. And don't start any major projects. The youngster needs mental stability. They know that the parents will be there for them. In the 5 cycle, we have to watch their safety. And there could be accidents caused by just that impulsive, rushing quality. It's a creative, educational period of time, but make sure that education is based on planning and constructive effort, not on bitter experiences. It's really the time for focused learning and creativity and new experiences. You can discuss with them how the 5 cycle can be impulsive and too quick to take on many new things. Wow, too many irons in the fire, and then they never complete anything. With teenagers, you have taught them the standards, you've taught them the values, and now you have to trust them to proceed with intelligence. Try not to hover over them or micromanage. In the 6 cycle, it's important for them to learn the lesson of responsibility, of helping others without being too interfering or bossy. So it might be responsibilities within the home, depending on the age. Wow, at 6, they get to set the table, or 7, they get to empty the dishwasher. They love the fact that you trusted them to assume those tasks, and they'll do their best to live up to your expectations and trust. With older youngsters, maybe it's babysitting the siblings, or if they have their driver's license, driving them to activities. You'll find they're more serious in this cycle, but very capable and reliable to carry through.
So that concludes the testing and proving. How about the fruition cycle, the 7, 8, and 9?
In the 7 cycle, although they may appear more shy and withdrawn or perhaps moody, they need more love. They crave affection, understanding, and support. So it's a time to be more gentle and recognize that sensitivity that's there. And take the time to talk things out with them to help them to understand their changing feelings. Also, we want to provide opportunities to get out in nature, maybe a camping trip or walks on the beach or deep in the forest, and they'll draw from the beauty and the peace in nature. It's not the best time to take the family to Disneyland. We know that youngsters are just little sponges, and in the 7 cycle, they are more sensitive to the environment. In the 8th cycle, we want to teach them that as you sow, so shall ye reap. And we get the best out of life when we put into it the best. If you want something, you have to work for it. So we want to help them to organize their time and activities. Of course, depending upon their age, we can teach them about investments and saving accounts. Teach them to share in the cycle, to be generous with their time and their resources. Perhaps help them to organize a family gathering or an outing. They want things to be fair and just in this cycle. In the 9 cycle, the youngster requires more affection and more understanding. They also need inspiration, so make sure they have time for fun and relaxation. Help your teenagers to plan for the future. Encourage that quality of giving and sharing, whether it's a toy, whether it's a game, but give them the chance to give. Maybe it's planning a party, baking a cake, being creative and artistic. This can be a very emotional time, especially as they get into their teenage years. They go from the heights of inspiration to the depths of despair. So help to create that stability and that calm, stable environment that they need.
One aspect that we should comment on is that the cyclic law is the pattern of time that the child is experiencing, but their name is actually the determining factor for their mind. How would you relate the two?
It's so important for them to have a balanced name because then you have an open channel between the spark and the mind. And that mind can grow the way it was supposed to grow, like that beautiful flower that opens up into the fruit.
You've used the term spark. You mean the inner potential or the universal potential of that child.
Yes, that came with the first breath. And we call that our birth path. That's our path in life that we were meant to follow to bring beauty into life.
So we can use the mathematical principle to understand time, which is the cyclic law, but we can also use it to understand mind, which is created through name, and also the inner potential, which is the birth date. So it's just a layer of understanding of the mathematical principle as it applies to different aspects of life. Well, thank you, Lara. That was a good summary. That'll conclude this episode, and we appreciate your perspective on cycles.
Thank you, Dakin. It was wonderful to be here.
Remember, you can test the cyclic law for free without any obligation. All you have to do is download the Cycle Chart app from either the Android store or the Apple store. Just search for the term Cycle Chart, CYCLE, and the word chart. There'll be a link to it in the show notes as well. Once you install the app, you can set up the free account. The key information that you give it is your month and date of birth, and it will populate the app with your personal cycle. So then you can explore your cycle year, your cycle months, and your cycle days. We'll see you next week. Until then, happy thoughts.